Let the great experiment begin. MarkRogersTV, voice of college football, coming your way with Pac-12 previews and predictions as we knock out the Power 5. We have started with what was the worst conference in college football in 2017. We've knocked out the North. We have reviewed Colorado. We now make our way to the next worst team projected. That's Arizona State. They were the second best team in the Pac-12 South Division last season, at least record-wise at 6-3, 7-6 overall. Obliterated in the Sun Bowl, giving up 52 points to North Carolina State. Okay, the experiment, of course, is Herm Edwards on the sideline running the show. Let's not completely dismiss it. He's a master motivator. They're going to make him a CEO of types. They forced him to keep the offensive and defensive coordinators. He's a guy that hasn't touched college football for a long, long time. Hasn't really been in the NFL for quite some time, although he's got a wealth of head coaching experience and as a defensive coordinator and assistant at the next level. He's already made strides on the recruiting path. He brought up the 2018 class significantly once he was hired. And then here in 2019, he's got roughly a top 20 class working right now, but that's all in the future. This team has some concerns. But it is kind of strange that a team coming off a 6-3 conference record, bringing back its quarterback and also its best player, is projected to be so bad. That's because the roster depth is just not there and the players that are needed along the lines of scrimmage. Let's start at quarterback. Manny Wilkins, a decent player, 63% completion percentage, 20 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. You're not going to find bad games on his track record. Probably the worst against Stanford, 15 of 24, 2 interceptions, and 3 picks against North Carolina State. But you got to understand the situation, playing from behind, knowing that they had little chance, and constantly down by 2 and 3 scores. He was winging the throws all over the field at the Sun Bowl. The best player on the field on the roster, N'Keal Harry, is back. 82 catches, 1,141 yards, and 8 touchdowns. To complement him, a really good player in Kyle Williams, 66 catches, 7 touchdowns. And also, watch out for Frank Darby. He's a burner. He's the fastest player on the roster. He caught 9 balls for 234. Do the math. It's like 35 yards per catch. And against San Diego State, they found him 3 times for $111 against a really good Aztecs defense. The running backs, Demario Richard, Kalen Ballage, 2 talented players, are gone. They bring back basically no experience and little depth. The guy to remember here is 4-star Eno Benjamin. He'll probably get the football more than anybody else, but it's running back by committee. Both tackles are back, and also a national recruit in Casey Tucker may see the field as well. That's the offense. All right, the offense not looking horrible. The defense looked horrible in 2017. In about 9 or 10 games. But against Utah and Washington, they were magnificent. They only gave up 10 points to the Utes and 7 points to the Huskies. Otherwise, horrible defensive showing last year. They returned 6 players on defense. They're best in the secondary, where they've got Chase Lucas, 59 tackles, 2 interceptions. DeMonte King with 38 stops and a pick. Up front, their best pass rusher, Corin Crump. 9 sacks 2 years ago, got hurt last year, 4 sacks in 2017. He obviously is a key to the defensive pass rush. He's the best they've got. Also, J.J. Wilson at linebacker, 47 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, and 2 sacks. They've got Rennell Wren with 21 tackles as well. Ohio State transfer Darius Slade could be a key factor, and they're looking for him to make big plays and to make an impact. Okay. I'm not finding a horrible team here. We see playmakers at wide receiver. We see a returning starting quarterback who's a good player. We see a couple players on defense, some potential. And, of course, if the recruiting class really comes through from 2018, then they've got some freshmen who are going to stand out. But we know nothing about those guys in terms of their ability at this level. So I'm not finding the wins. They're difficult to find. There's a trip by Michigan State, the big non-conference affair. If Arizona State pulls off the upset there, I would not be surprised. Big Ten teams have notoriously struggled on the West Coast, but Michigan State, a much better team than Arizona State. So they lose that game. They win the other 2 non-conference games, so they're 2-1. But in the Pac-12, they beat Oregon State. They probably win at Colorado, but maybe the Buffs steal that game. They've got to find another win somewhere, and I'm not finding the win. So 2-7 for Herm Edwards. So it's going to look ugly on the surface, but this team, this program, not necessarily the team, differentiating the team being 1 year versus the program, the build-out, could be much different there, because the immediate future doesn't look real good for Arizona State in compiling wins against this schedule. But long term, who knows? I'm not going to make a judgment on the experiment. From day one, I said I wouldn't go in that direction. Too much of a risk, too much of a unknown factor to ride an entire football program in a major conference on. But they've gone this direction. It may work. But for 2018, it's going to be rough. 4-8, 2-7 in the Pac-12 for Arizona State. They could top out at 6 or 7 wins, but I see 4 wins with a lot of close losses for ASU. Your prediction, I need to hear it. Leave it in the comments section. Of course, grab the Amazon links, and you know the deal with a mailing list. Join the Mark Rogers TV mailing list, or whatever name we come up with that's much chicer and a little bit catchier than that. But the important thing is that you drop your email to MarkRogersTV@gmail, and we get you on the mailing list for college football information weekly starting that first Monday of the season on September 3rd. Right here on Mark Rogers TV, Voice of College Football.